I'll call this meeting to order. Adoption of agendas, Councillor Neal.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. It's moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Longo, that the council adopt the agendas for the meeting of July 2nd, 2019.
All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. The mayor's report. Swimming lessons at the Thorold Community Pool have begun for the season, and there is still time to register for additional swimming sessions being offered this summer. For swim lessons and program information, please go on www.thorold.ca. For those of you who access the pool frequently, season's pool passes can be purchased at City Hall. The First Ontario Credit Union will host a free community swim on Saturday, July 6th. That's this upcoming Saturday, during public swimming from 12:30 to 4:45 p.m. Admission to the pool will be free, and you can stop by their tent for giveaways and information. On behalf of Thorold City Council, I was honored to present a number of awards and certificates to the graduating class at Thorold Secondary School on June 27th, and Councillor Neal was there as well, handing out some awards. From Friday, June 28th until Sunday, June 30th, we had a large turnout for Rock and Blues on the Battlefield, free music concerts that took place in the Battle of Beaver Dams Park. Thank once again to all of this year's amazing sponsors, and to the residents for supporting this event, and to all the volunteers and all the councillors. And I seen every councillor there this weekend. At some point, some working for the TCAG. Outstanding. Our Canada Day festivities was a huge success. More residents than ever turned out this year to help us celebrate. Attendees enjoyed a number of activities, food trucks, and music throughout the day. And I can tell you that the park was jam-packed. It was record crowds. All the food vendors were extremely pleased with the amount of business that they got. And the fireworks display was absolutely outstanding. So it was a huge success the whole weekend. The annual BIA Car Show will be taking place on Saturday, July 20th from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. on Front Street. Admission is free, and there are door prizes to be won. Dash plaques will be provided to the first 100 cars registered. And that's the end of the mayor's report. No regional councillor update. Adoption of the minutes. Council and General Committee meeting minutes of June 18th, 2019. Councillor Hanley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Sentence, that the regular Council and General Committee meetings held on June 18, 2019 be hereby adopted.
Are there any errors or omissions? Seeing none, I call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. General Committee in-camera meeting minutes of June 18th, 2019. Councillor Sentence.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Kenny, that the General Committee in-camera meeting minutes of June 18th, 2019 be hereby adopted.
Any errors or omissions? Seeing none, I call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Any declarations of interest? Seeing none, we'll move into public meetings pursuant to the Planning Act. And up first is the proposed amendment to the City of Thorold Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw 2140-97 re 69 Sullivan Avenue to facilitate a future severance for a semi-detached dwelling. Okay, opening remarks and purpose of meeting and intent of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment. This public meeting is being held pursuant to the provisions of Section 34 of the Planning Act, RSO 1990 CP 13 as amended. The purpose and effect of the zoning bylaw amendment is to rezone the subject lands from residential first density R1C zone to a site-specific residential second density R2 zone to permit a future severance of the lands for a semi-detached dwelling. A sign-in sheet is located at the back if you wish to receive a copy of the decision of City Council. At the same table, copies of the staff report are available for your information. Up first, a presentation from city staff, and I'd like to call Paul Klassen, Intermediate Planner, up, please.
Good evening, members of council and members of the public. My name is Paul Clausen. I'm a planner with the city, and I'll be presenting a zoning bylaw amendment application that was submitted for the property municipally known as 69 Sullivan Avenue. The application proposes to rezone the subject property from residential first density R1C zone to a site-specific residential second density R2 zone to permit a future severance of the property for a semi-detached dwelling. Site-specific provisions are requested to reduce the minimum lot area and frontage required for a semi-detached dwelling and to allow for a 0-meter setback along a shared wall between dwelling units. The subject property is located on the south side of Sullivan Avenue between Sydenham Street and Delaware Avenue. The area surrounding the subject property consists mainly of residential uses. The adjacent property to the west has a site-specific neighborhood commercial zoning and currently contains a convenience store. The requested R2 zone permits single, semi-detached, duplex, triplex, and converted dwellings. Subject to certain provisions, home occupations, group homes, and accessory buildings and structures are also permitted. The subject lands are designated as urban living area in the city's official plan. Permitted uses within the designation include single detached dwellings and the following uses subject to additional policies: accessory apartments, semi-detached dwellings, townhouse dwellings, multiple and apartment dwellings, home occupations, bed and breakfast establishments in single detached dwellings, parks and open space, and complementary uses. The application was circulated for comment as per Planning Act requirements. No objections have been received from internal divisions or external agencies. The engineering division identified that the condition of existing municipal services will be reviewed at the time of demolition. This concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, members of council, Mr. Mayor. I think that planning staff did a very good job giving a general overview. So what I just wanted to do is provide just a couple of slides with some context if you haven't been out to the site, get you a little bit of a better understanding of what we're proposing to do out here. So as it's currently situated, what Mr. Klassen was noting, this is the existing convenience store next door, and this is 69 Sullivan Avenue. It currently has a single detached dwelling on the property. This is its current state right now. We've currently applied for a demolition permit for this building. It's certainly, we affectionately refer to it as a bit of an eyesore, but it's our intent to take the building down. There's that convenience store next door, to take that building down and then replace it with a new semi-detached building that's designed and architecturally pleasing. So with this change, when we filed the application, we were aware of the ongoing update to the comprehensive zoning bylaw, and it was our understanding based on discussions with staff that there's going to be a requirement for semi-detached dwellings in the future, that if you have one, you have to sever the property in two. So that's the reason for the site-specific zoning. We have a proposed consent plan that was submitted to the city with a general footprint of the building that we're going to provide on there. What we wanted to do was ensure that when the new zoning came into effect, that we're in a good position there and we have the appropriate frontages on the site. So our frontages for each unit would be recognized, as well as that 0-meter setback on our interior side yard setback here between the shared wall. And this is just, again, to make sure that when we do go forward, we construct the building and then we go for that consent, that we do conform with zoning and we don't need to come in for any minor variances or anything further to that effect. So happy to answer any other questions you may have about the application.
Any questions for Craig? Seeing none, thank you, Craig, for your presentation. We'll now move on to the public participation portion. Public input. If a person or public body chooses to not provide oral comments at the public meeting or written comments before the proposed zoning bylaw amendment is adopted, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision to the local planning appeals tribunal. Now, at this time, is there anyone present who wishes to speak in favor of the application? Please come forward to the podium. Is there anyone, again, that wishes to come forward to speak in favor of the application? Seeing none, I'll move on. Is there anyone present who wishes to speak in opposition of the application? Please come forward to the podium. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in opposition of the application? Please come forward to the podium. Seeing none, I'll move on to closing remarks and closing of the meeting. This fulfills the requirements of the Planning Act, RSO 1990 CP 13, pursuant to Section 34. The city's general committee will consider staff's recommendation report, which will be subsequently considered by city council at a future date. Anyone wishing to receive a copy of City Council's decision as a result of this application is asked to submit their request in writing to the city clerk. As such, the public meeting portion of this application is now closed. Okay, and now we're going to move into our second public meeting, and that is the proposed amendment to the City of Thorold Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw 2140-97, re. 22 Cunningham Street and 10 and 12 Linden Street West, to facilitate the construction of 2 3-story apartment buildings, D14-05-2019. Opening remarks and purpose of meeting and intent of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment. This public meeting is being held pursuant to the provisions of Section 34 of the Planning Act, RSO 1990 CP 13 as amended. The purpose and effect of the zoning bylaw amendment is to rezone the subject lands from residential second density special R2S zone to a site-specific residential fourth density R4A zone to permit the construction of 2 3-story residential apartment buildings containing 6 units each for a total of 12 new dwelling units. A sign-in sheet is located at the back if you wish to receive a copy of the decision of City Council. At the same table, copies of the staff report are available for your information. Up first, presentation from city staff. I'd like to call back to the podium Paul Clausen, Intermediate Planner.
I'll now be presenting a zoning bylaw amendment application that was submitted for the lands municipally known as 22 Cunningham Street and 10 and 12 Linden Street West. The subject application proposes to rezone the subject lands from residential second density special R2S zone to a site-specific residential fourth density R4A zone to permit the development of 2 3-story apartment buildings containing 6 units each. An official plan amendment is also required to permit an increased density of 62 units per hectare. Staff anticipates that an official plan amendment application will be submitted shortly by the applicant and brought forth for recommendation concurrently with the requested zoning bylaw amendment. Site-specific provisions are requested to permit the following: 2 buildings on 1 lot instead of the maximum of 1, a reduced parking area setback from the adjacent R2S zone, reduced widths for a 2-way access driveway and a 2-way traffic aisle, and reduced front, rear, and exterior side yard setbacks. The subject lands are located in the northeast corner of the intersection of Cunningham Street and Linden Street West. The lands are currently comprised of 3 separate properties, which would be consolidated into a single parcel to accommodate the development. The area surrounding the subject lands consists of residential uses to the northeast and west, and a rail corridor to the south. The requested R4A zone permits apartment buildings as well as home occupations, group homes, and accessory buildings and structures subject to additional provisions. Subject lands are designated as urban living area in the city's official plan. Permitted uses within this designation include single detached dwellings, the following uses subject to additional policies: accessory apartments, semi-detached dwellings, townhouse dwellings, multiple and apartment dwellings, home occupations, bed and breakfast establishments in single detached dwellings, parks and open space, and complementary uses. The application was circulated for comment as per Planning Act requirements. No objections have been received from internal divisions or external agencies. The building division did note that they were unable to comment on spatial separation requirements at this time, and that this would be addressed in the future building permit application. The region of Niagara found that the proposal met the intent of provincial and regional intensification policies, and regional staff also recommended noise mitigation measures that they be implemented due to the proximity of the rail to the south, and also noted that waste collection is the responsibility of the property owner. This concludes my presentation. Thank you again.
Thank you, Paul. Are there any questions for Paul? Go ahead, Councillor Hanley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just in one thing with the double glazed windows, can I ask why you would not go to triple glaze? I'm only asking because we are presently having trouble with train issues in another part of Thorold, and that was one of the noted things in the division or plan of subdivision at the time when the homes were built, that they were triple glazed windows facing the railroad line. Because we're dealing with a situation now where a subdivision was built on Thorold Avenue, and the train line's there in Port Robinson. We passed it as a council, and we've been having issues with residents in regards to the noise from the trains and why at that time we didn't have triple glazed windows installed. So just to ask.
Go ahead, Paul.
Through the mayor, thanks for the comment. That's certainly something we'll be looking at probably through the site plan process. We'll investigate whether that's a possibility to implement and through the building permit process as well.
Okay, any further questions? Thank you, Paul. Move on to presentation of the proposed amendment, and up we'll have Daniel Romanko, a planning consultant. Daniel?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council, public. My name is Dan Romanko. I'm a planner with Better Neighborhoods, and I don't have a lot to add to staff presentation, but I just did want to describe a little bit more about what the project looks like. So the location here is on the corner of Cunningham and Linden, just south of the downtown and north of Highway 58. We're proposing 2 3-story residential buildings. They are intended or have been designed to be accessible, and they are geared toward for seniors. There's more than enough parking spaces, and we're implementing good urban design principles in the design and site planning of the 2 buildings. Parking in the rear, front doors with sidewalks that connect to the front of the home of the buildings, and distinct architecture. So this is the site plan. As you can see, the access is off Cunningham, and we've got the front doors addressing the Linden Street frontage. Ample parking, accessible, and the garbage enclosures. This is one example of the architecture for one of the buildings, and this would be another. Colors and materials are subject to change, but nevertheless, you get the idea. Happy to answer any questions of council.
Councillor Kenny, go ahead.
Yes, I see you mentioned they might be for seniors. Very happy about that. I guess my next question would be, it's going to be a 3-story building. Is there going to be an elevator in it?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, an elevator has been incorporated into the design, and that's why we've gone to a 3-story model, so that the first story is at grade, so there's no stairs for accessibility.
Any further questions? I got Councillor Neal.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, through you. Will there be sidewalks in front? I noticed there aren't any in the design.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the front doors have sidewalks that connect to the existing sidewalk located on Linden. And there's a sidewalk already on, there's sidewalks on both Linden and Cunningham.
That good? Any further questions? Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you.
And now we'll move on to public participation. If a person or public body chooses to not provide oral comments at this public meeting or written comments before the proposed zoning bylaw amendment is adopted, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision to the local planning appeal tribunal. Now at this time, if there is anyone who wishes to speak in favor of the application, please come forward to the podium. Once again, at this time, is there anyone present who wishes to speak in favor of the application? Please come forward to the podium. Seeing none, I'll move on. If there is anyone present who wishes to speak in opposition of this application, please come forward to the podium. Again, I'll ask, is there anyone present who wishes to speak in opposition of the application? Please come forward to the podium, and would you please state your name?
My name is Jerry Fleming. I hope I'm not getting too vicious. I've been in the Corps and in the Legion, and we've argued about these different things over the whole years, but I've got more comments from people now on this proposal than I've ever had before. That's why I got my wife to make up a petition, and I ran all around the community to get people signed. And every person I asked, I said, will you sign this because you disagree with what's going on? And they said, definitely we're going to disagree with. What do we need another 20 cars running up and down Linden Street when already everybody runs up and down there so they can get to the beer store? We don't need another building there with another 20 cars. It's supposed to be for seniors too. We know that's not going to happen. It's going to be loaded with Brock students. If anybody knows the location, across the street on Cunningham Street, past the railroad station, there's a 3-story building there right now with 6 units. Every unit has a Brock student in it. Now, I'm not saying they're all bad, but out of those 6 apartments, there's always one that there's some idiot in there causing trouble. In the last 3 years, we've been lucky. The students that have been in there have all been perfect. They'll come out and play football and everything else at nighttime, but at 10 o'clock, they're back in their building and they don't cause any trouble at all. But this new building that's going to be supposedly built here, I won't be able to sit in my own backyard and have privacy because everybody will be looking out the window and saying, oh, maybe we should go over and have a beer with them. And I don't even drink beer. That's my presentation, I'm sorry. But what I said, everybody that signed on here said the same thing. They disagree with it. In our neighborhood, we want a single-family dwellings.
Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Jerry. Is there any questions?
Thanks for everybody.
Is there any questions for Jerry from the councilors? Go ahead, Councilor Sentence.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for coming, Jerry. If there was a way to guarantee that it was senior, I've always trying to get more senior buildings in Thorold. That's something we've all talked about. If there was a way to, I don't even know, to guarantee that it was a senior building, would that change your mind at all on this?
Probably not.
No. Okay. Thank you.
Seniors are going to have trouble pulling out of there and going across the railroad tracks if they're not sharp, because the cranes do not honk anymore when they go across the crossings. There's a guy at the back of the train, the engine's up at the front pushing the cars down. There's a guy at the back. Now, if he sees a car, he'll push a button and make the thing go off. But if he happens to look the other way, on the corner of Cunningham and Linden are stop signs. I sit on my porch, and one day in the future, I'm going to see somebody get killed there. Cars go through without stopping. Stupid kids on bicycles carrying their Tim Hortons glass go through there and never look either way to see if a car's coming. And if it's 5:45, don't try to cross my street, because everybody's in a hurry to get down to the beer store to get their beer before it closes. And then when they get their beer, they race up my street again because they want to go home and drink it.
Is there any further questions for Jerry? Seeing none, Jerry, thank you very much
Thank
for
you
your
very much for
presentation.
everybody listening to my line of baloney. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that wants to come forward to speak in opposition to the application? Please come to the podium. Last time, is there anyone else present who wishes to speak in opposition to the application? Please come forward to the podium. Seeing none, I'll move on to closing remarks and closing of the meeting. This fulfills the requirements of the Planning Act, RSO 1990 CP 13, pursuant to Section 34. The city's general committee will consider staff's recommendation report, which will be subsequently considered by City Council at a future date. Anyone wishing to receive a copy of City Council's decision as a result of this application is asked to submit their request in writing to the city clerk. As such, the public meeting portion of this application is now closed. Okay, there's no civic recognition or presentations. We'll move on to motions for support. And we have City of Thorold Amendment Bylaw to protect children and vulnerable persons from exposure to outdoor secondhand smoke. And I have Councillor Neal.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As we all know that smoking is prohibited in our public parks and public areas, but we always need a bylaw in place in order to make sure that that doesn't happen. And as you know, at the park over the weekend, although it was very, very good, there were still some people smoking in our park during the festivities. So therefore, Mr. Mayor, moved by myself, seconded by Councilor Longo, that the Council of the Corporation of the City of Thorold consents to the passage of bylaw number 2019-52 of the Regional Municipality of Niagara, being a bylaw to amend the bylaw number 112-2013, a regional bylaw to protect children and vulnerable persons from exposure to outdoor secondhand smoke, be received and supported.
Is there any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Statement by councilors. Up first, I have Councilor Hamlin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to, with the approval of council, to bring forward a resolution tonight in regards to opposing Ontario Bill 115 to preserve the beer store. Whereas the Ford government has introduced Bill 115.
Second, can you do that under statement by councilors and bring it forward next meeting? Under notice of motion, excuse me, notice of motion.
Well, I'm thinking maybe a time-sensitive thing,
It's
so
not,
by
I don't
that,
think it is, from what I understand.
preserving 7,000 Ontario jobs isn't of an importance.
No, it is important, but I don't think the timing of 2 weeks is a problem.
Okay, I can do that.
You know what
Notice
I'm
of
saying?
motion. Well, if that's what you want, yep.
Yeah, okay, so if you, under statement of councilors, just, I'm under notices of motion, bring it forward that you're gonna bring it next meeting. Is that fine?
Okay, Mr. Mayor, yep.
Okay. And I have Councillor DeRose, 2 items. Go ahead, Councillor DeRose.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you. Just as Director of Corporate Services, and we've had previous discussions, we're having some issues at, specifically at Grosse Park and McMillan Park so far with the canteen contract. So if you just get an explanation as to why they switched over to a private person running the concessions.
Can I'll turn this over to, do you want to answer this, Curtis, the manager of Parks?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. So the decision was made to switch to a alternate service provider last year, as previously it was done by the minor associations, which the problem with that was they were very specific to open for their events. So by using this outside contractor, they're now open for all events. So there has been some issue in the past couple months with scheduling and having the gentleman be open at the appropriate times. That's actually going to change as of earlier this week or last week, end of last week, where he's now going to be reaching out to the individual minor sports associations and working with them on the scheduling of when they would like to see him open. So that should rectify it, but we're aware of the situation and are monitoring it closely.
Thank you.
I'm just going to elaborate on that originally this come about and we went out for RFP because the TAA turned the canteen at the arena back over to the city, and we're not in the business of running food concessions. So we put it out for RFP, and then they talked to the organizations that it would be all encompassing because it would work better if that provider was looking after all the canteens in town. Councillor Sentence, did you want to speak on that issue before you, yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. I talked to Mr. Meany today. Councillor Kenny's talked to him too. There was just a misunderstanding of scheduling and what he was doing. And a lot of people were asking for favors to have their own barbecues and stuff like that. So we've talked to them since, all 4 major user groups. If I'm missing anybody, I'm sorry, but they all know now that it's going to be him and only him going forward. So there should be no more miscommunications on this. Thank you.
Does that answer that part?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Councillor DeRose, on your second item.
Yes, I just want to say it was a resounding success. Heart Niagara's, the bike safety program they promote, with the Heart Niagara Bike Rodeo program was just a resounding success at our school at Monsignor Clancy. And just want to say thank you to council and the mayor for supporting the venture. The kids were engaged all day, learned a ton about safety, and it was just, I keep hearing positive things back from the students, which is a great thing, and we're looking forward to doing it in consecutive years. And just to council and the mayor, thank you for your support on that positive experience for the grade 6 students.
Thank you, Councillor DeRose. It's definitely a great initiative. Okay. Notices of motion. Now I got Councillor Hanley.
2, there was one I was wanting to bring back at the last council meeting in regards to the Battle of Beaver Dams Park. A notice of motion to move forward with the revitalization that I want to bring, that I'm going to bring forward at the next meeting. And also notice of motion in regards to opposing Ontario Bill 115 to preserve the beer store.
Thank you very much. So you'll work with the clerk on those 2 motions,
Yes.
correct?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to resolve into general committee. I'll call to order. Are there any declarations of interest? This mic, I got it on now. Yeah, no, seeing none, No delegations. Is there a call to bring any reports to be brought forward from the consent reports? Seeing none, can I get a motion to move the reports from consent? Counselor Sentence. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Discussion reports. PWCS 2019-44, Collier Road Parking. Can I get a mover for this report? Counselor Kenny, and then I'll get our Director of Public Works and Community Services, Jeff Holman, please.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. The recommendation is that the City Council submit a request to the Niagara Region to restrict parking on both sides of Collier Road, Regional Road 56, between Sullivan Avenue and St. David's Road.
Okay, is there any discussion on this report? Anyone wants to speak? Councillor Kenny.
Yes, I just want to thank the staff for the report, and although initially I was asking council just for the parking on one side, came back with both sides of the street, which is going to help the flow of traffic down Collier Road. And for the safety of the children going to that school, it will only be the only school, Catholic school in Thorold after St. Charles closes. So, thank you very much.
Anyone else to speak on that? And as you know, that's going to be referred to the region because that's a regional road. Okay? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, now we're going to go back into regular council and finish our agenda there before we go into in camera. We're going to do bylaws. First reading of bylaws, Councillor Neal. Oh, excuse, there was no recommendation from general committee. Yeah. Okay, that's fine. Go ahead, Councillor Neal.
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Kenny, that leave be given to introduce the following bylaws: Bylaw 85, 2019, 86, 2019, 87, 2019, 88, 2019, 89, 2019, 90, 2019, 91, 2019, 92, 2019, 93, 2019, 94, 2019, 95, 2019, and 96, 2019. That's now the same now be read a first time.
All those in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Kenny, that the bylaws just read a first time, be read a second and third time, and do pass, and that the mayor and clerk do sign and seal the same. Any rule of this council to contrary notwithstanding.
All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Council committee and board meeting minutes. Minutes to review for information purposes. Councillor DeRose.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Longo, that council receive and file the minutes of the committees of council, local boards as presented.
All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Minutes to endorse recommendations. Councillor Sentence.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Kenny, that council adopt the recommendations contained within the deputy clerk's memo of June 25th, 2019.
All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Now I need, can I get a motion to go in camera? Councillor Neal.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Before going in camera, in accordance with Section 239 of the Municipal Act, a meeting or part of a meeting may be closed to the public if the subject matter being considered is about a personnel matter. Could I have a motion, which I did, to move into closed section to discuss the mayor's verbal report on the chief administrative officer's performance review? And that was Councillor Neal. Again, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. And to adopt two sets of minutes from June 18th, 2019 in camera general committee meeting. So we will now move into in camera. And I thank staff